It's been a good summer, but definitely busy.
Yeah. I mean, you guys should see the way this room looks. Look at this. We have a hamster. Isn't that great? Did you guys just want to say hi to our little cute friend there? I can't really zoom in, but just he's like sleeping. Yeah. Well, anyways.
Alright, let's rock and burp.
Oh.
There we go.
Okay. I love it. We're doing it all the way. Double rainbow, double burp, all the way. We're doing this. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of On a Couch Talking Sports. As always, I'm Robbie. This weirdo right here is Kyle. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. Kyle is, he's in his zone tonight, folks. I don't know if you could really tell. He's just got a lot going on in that big old head of his.
A lot. Yeah, right. You mean like nothing, right? I mean, yes, so much going on.
But, yeah, we know it's been a couple weeks since we filmed an episode. Just gonna try to stay focused here. We know it's been a couple weeks since we filmed an episode, but a lot going on. Very busy time right now, but all good stuff. All really good stuff, and just enjoying the end of summer as it creeps longer and longer into August here. But we are back for another episode, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And we got a good one tonight. But before we get into that, we do want to send a special shout out to our two sponsors, Zyman Organizing and Wes Woodson. As always, thank you to them for their support, and their links will be in the description. And they are also big supporters of Screen Time with Doug and Kyle, as well as the Sports Blitz with Doug and I. So definitely check out all three of our YouTube show trilogy, and also check out Wes Woodson and Zyman Organizing. So thank you as always to them. So now for tonight's episode. So if you've watched, I think we sort of did this a few episodes back. We sort of started a little mini series, if you want to call it that, about different sports rules, like for the major sports especially, like different rules and our thoughts on them for different sports. And already we touched on baseball and we touched on football, which were both very good episodes.
True.
You should definitely go back and watch those.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And so tonight we wanted to touch a little bit on some basketball rules, because Kyle and I have both played basketball at different points during our lives and have watched basketball here and there. And it's interesting, Kyle, because I feel like out of the four major sports, being hockey, basketball, football, and baseball, I think basketball is like the one where I have the least strong opinion on the rules. I don't really have many rules for basketball. I was like, oh my god, these are terrible. Like the runner rule in baseball, or the shootout in hockey, or some particular rule. Even in football, I feel like I have a couple of strong opinions from that previous episode. But basketball, I don't know. Everything just seems to be very straightforward, and I never really seem to have any major rules related issues with the sport of basketball. I mean, it's pretty all the rules are usually pretty easy to understand. And
I will say this.
Yeah, go for it, because I was gonna segue into what are your thoughts on basketball rules, because I'm curious to hear your take here.
So it's interesting because, and actually I think this is something that we've talked about before. So I would say for the most part, the rules, just the very basic rules, have been mostly the same from what I can understand, at least. Maybe they have made changes throughout the years. They're not noticeable changes, honestly, like that. You're right, like you said, the second base thing in baseball and all that stuff. It's not noticeable if they really didn't make it.
I think the other sports have really adjusted much more, especially on the professional level over the years than basketball has. I just think you've heard a lot more about substantial rule changes in the other three major sports than you have had in basketball. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing crazy really. Like, when you get like a foul, it makes sense. The shooter, like stuff like that, like never really bothered me honestly. Like, and getting out of bounds, like pretty much almost any other sport of that type. Yeah, you get out of bounds, you get out of bounds. Um, and it does have some similarities here and there with soccer in the way they kind of like handle like if it goes out of bounds and the player from depending on what side it went out and who kicked it out kind of thing like
right.
so there's definitely some similarities with those sports, but one of the things, and I was actually gonna ask your opinion on this,
Sure.
and I think this is kind of more, I guess, less on the rules themselves but also just more kind of like how they play nowadays, and I think you and I have kind of seen that change in how basketball is more of a shooting game.
Yes.
Like they've really kind of changed that aspect of it. I think that's, to me, is the biggest change that I've seen. So it's not necessarily like straight up rules from like the rule book, because you
So
can always make 3 points and stuff like
well,
that.
I was about to say I don't mean to be I don't mean to sound like a smart ass here, but yeah, you mean like 3-point shooting, like the
Yes.
yeah, the amount, because basketball has always been a shooting game technically. 'Cause
I mean,
you're always shooting the ball.
okay, yeah,
at the basket.
of course.
I know, that's why I said I don't mean to sound like a smart ass, but I knew what you meant. Like, yeah, but you're absolutely right. Like the amount of like 3-point shooting,
3-point shooting,
like
yeah.
in the sport of basketball, especially at the professional level,
Mhm.
like it's far and above what it was. Like they're used to like not
Yeah.
even be 3-pointers in basketball like way back in the day, and now like literally every team like is just shooting three after three after three. Like I always get on the Celtics for this, as Kyle has heard on occasion. Like they shoot way too many 3-pointers. Like they live and die by the three. It's like go to the basket. Like it still
Yeah.
works. You can
Yeah.
still lay the ball in, or whatever the case may be. So, but no, I agree. I definitely agree with you in the sense that it's become a lot more like of an outside, like, well, I guess we'll call like exciting shot game, where it's like everybody's always so enthralled by the 3-pointer, and it's like the league has definitely leaned much more towards living by those particular shots, as opposed to like more of a inside game where it perhaps used to be. So I agree with you in that for sure.
Yeah, and I was kind of curious, like, because I feel like that's like the biggest, maybe, some people may they like that change, but other people maybe they don't like that change as much. And I was gonna see kind of where you stood and kind of just see if yeah, if even if you guys in the audience, you guys had kind of an opinion on that. And it's hard for me because like um because like from what I understand, one of our friends, actually Ben, was saying that it had to kind of do with like a probability thing in math, where I guess like they're more likely to get something out of a 3-point. There's a whole like kind of equation to it apparently, and so I guess I can understand.
You're going a little bit far down the math road for me here. I haven't really gotten into all those probability type things, the statistics of it all. I just know from the eye test that definitely there's a lot more 3-point shooting in basketball for sure than there used to be, and it probably has something to do with I don't know, statistical numbers. Everything about sports used to be like statistics these days, and probabilities and like averages and all that good stuff, and so it definitely seems to have taken a turn based on that. I would definitely agree with.
Yeah, and how do you feel about that? Do you
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of sort of the analytics based sort of style of the game these days. I just think I think they're sort of taking away a bit of common sense. It's like if you drive to the basket, you're much more likely to, first of all, get a basket because obviously you're closer, but also even if you don't, you're more likely to draw a foul and get yourself to the free throw line, or all these different things. Like that's the thing that I always.
Okay.
That's the reason why I always get on the Celtics for shooting too many threes, is because when you attack the basket, first of all, like I said, you sort of again, it's just closer. So that the in terms of like you want to talk about like probabilities and stuff like that. Definitely, it's more probable you're going to get a shot from closer in than a shot from behind the 3-point line. I would hazard a guess, but also you're more likely to draw a foul, or you're more likely to even sort of collapse the defense in enough where you can kick it out for an open 3-pointer. Like what drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It's not like if you have like a really open shot, like set shot from behind the 3-point line. It's when like teams just sort of come down and automatically just jack up a three rather than like trying to go inside or
like taking a little more
something
time
like
to
taking
kind
a
of
little more
like
time and like trying to work the ball inside and seeing if you can free something up. It just seems to be a lot more sort of rush, so offensively, so to speak. Like,
yeah.
and that's where teams like especially the Celtics tend to get into trouble is when they start getting into that mindset. So yeah, I like more of an interior game, and maybe part of the fact that I grew up playing forward and center, so I'm sort of used to being down low. But I just like more of an interior game. I just think that it can't hurt. It can only help to have a solid interior offensive game in basketball. So that's where I'm not a huge fan of sort of this slant to the outside game that you see a lot of now, but it definitely seems to be happening. Have already happened really, and so you kind of have to come to live with it in a certain sense, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, actually, it's just one of those. You're right. I'm kind of torn because like I understand the whole math thing, the whole probability. Like I get it. I know you guys did your numbers and this and that, and I'm sure you guys are right with all the facts and all the probabilities and all that stuff. But to your point too, I do miss that kind of more strategic approach to basketball.
Yeah.
I do like the kind of the more inside like passing, the more like kind of defense. And yeah, you're right, it is for me. It was always more fun, especially playing that way, when we were back in like middle school, elementary school, doing basketball. And like I do like playing inside like that. It's more, it's fun. And
the physicality of it too is definitely you can definitely get very physical down low, as I remember from my basketball playing days. Whether you're boxing somebody out or trying to like get position, it definitely can be a like I said, a battle down low at times. So which is not the worst thing. It's kind of fun and exhilarating to like be involved in that at times.
Oh yeah, totally. And it's interesting because this whole new like way of playing too kind of like renders like players like Shaq a little more useless in that sense. Like you have the big center who just like really stood there. It's now more of a game of, I feel like, of speed. So they have like more. Obviously, there are still plenty of tall people in basketball, but like I feel like people like Shaq would have a hard time kind of playing in this sort of landscape, if you will. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love watching Shaq play. I mean, he just like even if you're just grabbing a rebound, just like slam dunking it. I mean, you don't.
He's always there. He always like be like there for the ball, like.
You don't see as much of that. I mean, you definitely see that still, but you don't see as much of it like these days than you do, and I think that sort of fits into the narrative of what we're talking about here. So, yeah, I mean, it's just different. It's just a different. I mean, and if it works for a team, like if they're able to be very successful, like I'll give you a perfect example. Like a team that works very well for is the Golden State Warriors. With Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
Definitely.
I mean, they're two of the top 3-point shooters in all of basketball. So it works for them because they have like those guys that can really drain pretty much any outside shot that they take. But like other teams, like the Celtics, where you don't have as many players that are that consistent from like outside, it would be nice to sort of have that sort of that inside as well as the outside game to go to. So that balance of like inside versus outside. So.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying that. Yeah, definitely. Like, it would be nice if they could, but. It is what it is.
yeah, exactly. These days, it is what it is. I mean, this is basketball these days. So, like I said, kind of like with the runner rule in baseball or the shootout in hockey, we kind of have to learn to live with that. No
Yeah.
matter how much we don't want to.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. You kind of have to accept it and adjust your viewing style to your viewing expectations to it. So
Yeah. Although I will say, if I had to pick between the freaking second base and the shootout stuff, I would much rather have this new way of playing basketball than those
I
other
would
two.
agree. Oh, I would agree.
Shit things.
I would agree. And we still have hockey to talk about at some point down the road. I think we'll definitely be getting into the shootout discussion when we do that. But anything else you want to talk about for basketball as long as we're here?
No, I think we pretty much summed up well. So.
Yeah, I think it was a very good discussion. I really,
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure how this basketball was going to go because, like I said, I didn't really have any strong opinions, so I didn't know quite. It was good, but it really turned into a very, very good discussion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like there's definitely some factors.
Yeah, there's some stuff there to talk about, whether it be rules or just game strategy based.
Yeah.
It's some good stuff, but we obviously would love to hear from you folks at home. If you have any opinions on what you just heard, definitely feel free to drop us a comment here on YouTube because we'd love to hear from you. But we are going to sort of transition on now to the end portion of our episode. And I guess I'll go first tonight with my final thought, which is going to be a very quick one tonight. I had part of the reason why we've been off for a couple weeks is I had the opportunity to travel down south to Washington, D.C. Last week. And part of that trip was sports related in the sense that I got to take in the Red Sox and the Washington Nationals for their 3-game series down in D.C. My sister Sarah lives down in D.C., so obviously it's not as random as it might sound at first blush. I was down there sort of visiting her and to take in the Sox Nationals, which was a really fun series to go to, and really always fun watching the Sox on the road. Unfortunately they lost 2 out of the 3 games of the series, but at least they won 1, so I got to see 1 win, and all 3 games were really exciting. So I really don't have that many complaints. But what I wanted to talk about and sort of give my personal recommendation for is one of the places that I went to besides the baseball games in DC was the African American History Museum as part of the Smithsonian museums down there, and this is my first time going to, and I would highly recommend this museum in general. Just because it's got a lot of interesting factoids, about African American history and a number of different levels. But the part of the museum that kind of caught my eye, which will not be a surprise to anybody that knows me, was the sports exhibit. There was literally a whole exhibit dedicated to African Americans in sports, and all the different sports kind of had their own section. Obviously, I was definitely drawn to the baseball section where they had a whole talk about the Negro Leagues and Jackie Robinson and all these different things that have gone on in baseball history when it's come to baseball and African Americans. And again, just looking at all the sports and all the different athletes that have sort of come throughout the years and have really made their presence felt in sports as members of the African American community was just something very eye opening. I mean, obviously you know the factoids just from growing up a sports fan, but just to sort of see it portrayed much more in depth was just really fascinating and eye opening. I'm really glad that I went and took the time to go see that museum for that. And just like I said, just in general, there were a lot of other cool sort of parts of the museum as well, sort of exhibits and stuff like that. So definitely, any of the Smithsonian museums are fun to go to and are very sort of educational and eye-opening to go to. But if you have a chance to ever visit the African American History Museum, I would highly recommend it.
Cool.
Definitely some real food for thought there, which is not a bad thing.
Nice.
So yeah, so it was an enjoyable trip, and can't wait for the next time I get to make my way down there. But yeah, that is going to be my final thought for this evening. So now, as I always love to do, it's time to toss it over to Kyle for tossing it over for another edition of the Suze Reviews in all its its glory. So, Kyle, why don't you take it away?
All right, so today I want to talk about this movie that I saw over the weekend. Actually, there are a couple of ones I want to talk about, but I'm going to focus on this one. I really want to stay talking about this movie because the movie's called Stay. Right there.
I had a feeling there was a pun in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah, you know. Robbie knows me too well. So it was actually a movie that came out in 2005, I want to say, and it stars Ewan McGregor, Naomi Watts, Ryan Gosling, and even acclaimed British actor who has passed away several years back, Bob Hoskins, who is a tremendous actor. I love the guy. But the movie, it's hard to describe this movie. I personally, for one, loved it, and I think you guys should see it. It's a movie that went under the radar. It's directed by this guy, Mark Forster, who did other movies like The Kite Runner. He did World War Z, and he even did actually one of the James Bond movies, Quantum of Solace. So he's kind of dipped his toes in different genres of movies, if you will. And this one's kind of more of a little bit of a psychological thriller. But the way the movie plays out is unreal. It's unlike anything that it's unlike a lot of movies I've seen, where basically it's about this psychologist played by Ewan McGregor, and he ends up becoming like a substitute patient, or no, a substitute psychologist for the character, for Ryan Gosling, who plays like a college student. So this is Ryan Gosling kind of in his younger days. So he plays like a college student who's struggling with depression and all kinds of stuff going on with him, and you just find, but then you just throughout the movie you notice that there's something just really off about just the whole situation, and there's something off about even Ewan McGregor a little bit, Ryan Gosling's character, and the movie slowly kind of like reveals what's going on throughout it, and once you find out by the end, you're gonna be like, what? And throughout the movie, it just, the way the movie is edited, it's edited like this, like it keeps questioning you, like whether you're in, like where this is really happening, or are you in some kind of dream? And once you see the end of the movie, everything's answered, and it was quite a really great, I think, way to end the movie. Personally, it's definitely very sad at times. And like, but it's just a very well acted kind of thriller. Like it's a movie that I really recommend you guys see. It's on Hulu right now, I believe, at the time I'm speaking, which is August 22nd of 2023. So yeah, if you guys are looking for something kind of different, a little bit off the beaten path, I would definitely recommend you watch the movie Stay. It's a really great movie. It's a beautifully shot, just really well made, and just the editing is like flawless. It is just like, it's great. Like, you guys would love it.
Very good. So, well, you should definitely take him up on that suggestion, folks, as always, because he knows what he's talking about, so there's not much for me more to add to that. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of On a Couch Talking Sports. Again, want to thank Simon Organizing, Wes Woodson, for their support, their sponsorship. Want to shout out, as always, Screen Time with Doug and Kyle, and the Sports Splits with Doug and I. And as always, for On a Couch Talking Sports, you can follow us here on YouTube. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place. Just don't follow us in real life, like I said before.
Yeah, we don't want any stalkers.
Yeah, we don't want any stalkers. No, thanks. Appreciate the support, though, but just do from a distance. But anyway, like I said, that does it for this week's edition. So thanks for tuning in. And as always, that's Kyle. I'm Robbie. And this has been another On a Couch Talking Sports. And we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.